everyone, thank you for joining me for another monthly wrap-up. I'm your host, Voodoo Pickles, and today we're going to be talking about the books that I read in June. Sorry, this is coming out a little late. I got super busy at work, and it was ridiculous, and that's why we're late. But it's not too late. It's whatever. Thank you so much for hanging out and stopping by. I was surprised in June with how busy we were. I was able to finish 5 books, which was more than we did in, what was before June? May? I think it was May. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So we finished 5 books. The first book that I finished was The 12 Extraordinary Women, How God Shaped Women of the Bible and What He Wants to Do with You by John MacArthur. Just right here. So if you guys do not know, I recently, a few months ago, became a Christian, and one of the things about the Bible and Christianity that I always heard growing up and just being like around out living my life was that it was very sexist. And I was very big into feminism, so I was like, no, that's weird. And now reading it more, I'm like, oh, okay, no, there's misunderstandings here. And this is one of the books that my husband got me because I wanted to know more about the women's role in the Bible. And this one outlines 12 different women. It was pretty interesting. The first one is Sarah from the beginning, from Genesis, has Rahab, Ruth, and it goes through Old Testament and New Testament, giving you stories about the women, what they went through, their stories, and how that applies to having faith in God, and how you could take lessons from it and apply it to your own life. And it was a very interesting book. It was very small. Like, I thought it was going to be super big because I have the Bible commentary from John MacArthur, and that's like that thick. So I thought it was going to be a lot more than what it was, but it was very concise, and I really enjoyed it. And there's a lot more resources that it points you to in it as well, which was really great. So I gave this a 4.25 out of 5 for a nonfiction book, and like I said, I really enjoyed it. It gave me a lot of jumping off points, and it had me going back to chapters and books of the Bible that I had already read, but looking at them a little bit differently and able to reread them and then go deeper into the stories and the lessons learned and all of that loveliness. And the second book that we read this month was The Red Queen. This is part of the Chronicles of Alice series. This is the second book, and this is written by Christina Henry. And last month before this, in May, we read Alice. I think that was the name of the first book. It had the white rabbit on it. And we read the first book. This month we read the second book, and it is still very dark. This is a very, very dark series. Definitely check out the trigger warnings. That's what it was called. I was like, what is it called? Definitely check out the trigger warnings before reading any of the series. Like I said, it's really dark. It hits on a lot of things. It's more like Alice Madness Returns, that video game, and this one goes through right after the events of the first book and just picks up while they're still going on the path that they're going on to. I'm not going to talk too much about the story, but yes, there is the Red Queen. She's in it. The White Queen's in it. And a lot of these other characters that were part of the original story, just like in the first book. The first book had the caterpillar, had the white rabbit, had a lot of things like that, except it was, like I said, it's very dark. It's a very dark book. This one is not as dark as the first one. Like, it doesn't deal with Alice's personal trauma as much as the first one did. This one is now dealing with traumatic events that happened to a whole group of people, in how Alice is going to navigate that, as well as try and help them and help herself and her companion as well. I really enjoyed, like I said, I really enjoy this. I really enjoy the Alice Madness Returns game, and the dark themes that it shows up in there. I I don't know why, but that's just the thing I really enjoy about that game. I enjoy the visuals of it, and it's very descriptive in these books, and you're able to picture all of the way the characters look, the way they're talking, everything. The writing is really great in it, and I enjoy the story. And there's one more book in this. It's a series of short stories following different characters having to relate around Alice and in that universe. And I'm reading that now. It's called Looking Glass. But this one was a really great one. I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was really good. Like I said, it's not focusing so much on Alice in this one. She's still there. She's still there. She's still running around, being all Scooby Doo, like the villains. I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for these meddling kids. She's still there. She's still there, causing all kinds of chaos into plans that are going on. And it's a really good story. I really enjoy it. And the way that it brings things back full circle, it's just like, oh, like it hit me in the feels. I was surprised. I was shocked that it did, but it did. It hit me in the feels. A 4 out of 5. I really recommend this series. If you do not mind reading the really dark if you don't mind like reading knowing the really dark themes like this, like again, check the trigger warnings list. If you have anything on those trigger warning lists that you're just like, maybe I shouldn't, or that makes me feel a certain way, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Just imagine something else in your head. Go find a different Alice in Wonderland type of story. This is not for you. But if you don't mind that, I definitely recommend the series. I really enjoyed it. And the third book that we read this month is Icebound by Dean Koontz. Koontz? I said that right? That new tea. It's really good. It's honey vanilla chamomile. It's delicious. But this one I started off, I read it little chunks and pieces because I had it downloaded onto my tablet, which I take to work. So when there's a lull in the day, doesn't happen as much, but it has been known to happen where I'm ready to go, but I still got to wait on packages because there's just a metric shit ton of them and I just have to wait. So I'll pull out my tablet and I'll read. And this is one of the books that I had digitally that I read. It's really different than what I thought. I like Dean Koontz's retelling of the Frankenstein story. It's one of my favorite retellings. It's a series of books. I think it's like 3 or 4 books. They tried to make it into a movie with Gerard Butler. I think he was the monster in that movie. I'm pretty sure. If I can find it, I'll put it up on screen somewhere. But that was one of my favorite retellings. And I was really sad that they didn't continue making the movies for it. It did not do well. I enjoyed it, but I'm weird like that. And so that's mainly what I've read of Dean Koontz. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'd like that. Let's read something like this. This is nothing like that. Nothing like that. This one's just completely different. I didn't read the back. I had no idea what was going on before I read the book. So this follows a group of scientists who are trying to combat the lack of fresh drinking water that's going on in a crisis across the world. And a way that they're going to try and combat that is they are going to break off pieces of icebergs that are in the Arctic Circle, I think the North Pole, South Pole, one of those two icebergs around that area. They're going to start breaking off them like chunk by chunk and then using the ocean currents to have that travel to warmer climates and then breaking off pieces of those and melting them for fresh water, for drinking water, for agriculture, and all of that type of stuff. So you have a group of scientists on this iceberg. They are trying to do this whole project, and then while they're trying to do this project, there is a massive tsunami that is forming around the area. There's a massive earthquake that happens, and all of this is happening the way that they were told in their briefing packets and the reports from the mainland and from other military bases, scientific bases, and everything like that, that it wouldn't really affect them as much. There's like a small % chance that this would hit them and affect them because they're on an iceberg. And that small % chance happens. And so what happened to them is one of them is at their home base on this iceberg. He's on the radio with them. He's on the radio with other people. And then a chunk of the iceberg breaks off with the rest of the team on it. And there are a set of explosives that are on a part of that iceberg that were set to detonate. They're on a timer and are frozen into that side of the iceberg so that they can start breaking off chunks and having it go down to the ocean currents, doing the thing that they wanted to do, except now that they are stuck on that part of a small iceberg chunk and they're just free floating out in the ocean. And nobody can get to them because there's this huge tsunami, there's this huge storm that's going on, and I don't want to tell you more of it, but it gets a little bit more bananas after that. Like, it goes into a lot of the science parts of it, and it kind of reminded me of like Michael Crichton's writing, where he gives you the science to back up what's going on. Like, you know what's going on scientifically and how scientifically this could go on, and it makes sense. Like, he goes into a lot of that, which is not something I really read from Dean Koontz. So it was a nice little refreshing thing. Like I said, it was like more like Michael Crichton. But you have this team trying to navigate this emergency scenario. And then there's some other incidents that start happening with them. They're on a time crunch. There is a submarine from Russia. And you get to learn about that whole story. And that story's sad. And it's multiple POV, and it's a good cast of characters. I was really, really excited about it. Like, it was just like, wow, this kind of surprised me. It's not something I was expecting. I was expecting something more supernaturally, like more out there than what this is. This was all very realistic things that could happen, and that was a little scary. But it was really good. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I gave this a 3.25 out of 5, and it lulled in some places. Like, in some places, the lull was bad. And I don't know if that was because I was reading it in small little chunks, and if I was reading it in longer spurts, like chapter after chapter, like I usually do, it would have made more sense or not felt the lull as much, but I think that brought it down a little bit. So 3.25 out of 5, not too bad. And the fourth book that we read this month was The Peach Keeper. This is a reread for me. I listened to this on an audiobook last year. I think last year. And I was rereading it to get the notes on it because on an audiobook, I can't get notes on it as much because I listen to those at work and I can't stop to just write a bunch of notes down. So I was like, you know what? I will read this digitally. I'll grab it from my library. I'll pick up the notes from there. I was like, it should be easy, right? It'll be mostly skimming it to get the notes. No, apparently I forgot the whole story about this. So I ended up actually rereading this. And this follows two women. One of them's name's Willa and one of them is name's Paxton. They are in a North Carolinian town that are off in the mountains, and this town is very touristy, and one of them works in the tourist town. Her family was part of Paxton's family's social circle. Paxton becomes from one of the wealthiest families in that town. They are buying this local house, they're renovating it, they're turning it into a hotel, and that house used to belong to Willa's family. Willa's family was super uber rich. They were, like I said, in Willa's social group, and sometime in the past, during her grandmother's time, they lost their fortune. They lost everything. And she doesn't really know what happened because she was pretty ashamed of her family, and how superstitious her grandmother was, how like she was a prankster in school, and she thought that she always was like, ugh, I'm disappointing my father so much. So she felt like a disappointment. She was ashamed of how poor her family was, so she didn't really ask very much of what was going on. And so she doesn't really know much about her family history. She didn't know why they lost the money. She just assumes because they were in a logging business and they stopped the logging because that area turned into a national forest, that's why they lost it. She's like, obviously that's what it is. And so she flunks out of college. She has a mountain of debt. She's really sad about her life circumstances. She came back to her hometown after her father died, and her grandmother was put into a nursing home because she has Alzheimer's, and she's getting up there in age, so she stays there to visit her grandmother, and she decided that what her father wanted her to do and what her grandmother would probably want her to do is to settle down and have a serious adult life. Her whole life when she came back is, I have to have a serious adult life. I need to be super serial about my adult life and adulting all the time. So she buys a shop in the touristy part of town, and she creates it in this organic sporting goods shop that does coffee and has a bakery attached to it, which she never used until she hired one of her friends, Rachel, who is passing through the town. And Rachel bakes and loves coffee, so she does that, and she's just kind of there. And so Willa and Paxton are there. Paxton's family bought the house that Willa's family used to own, and there is a society of ladies of I forget what it's called, like a society of ladies that are there, and it's all these rich people, and they donate to charity, and they just get together, and there's a 30th anniversary of it, and Willa and Paxton's grandmothers created this society when they were a lot younger. And so Paxton wants to have a huge party for it, and she's trying to get Willa to enjoy it. And so it's them trying to navigate this together, because they get thrown together because while she's renovating it, they take out this peach tree, which they're like, there's no reason a peach tree should be here. It doesn't like flower, or there's no fruit that grows on it at this altitude. They pull up this peach tree to have an old, I forget what kind of tree it is. It's like an old tree that's indigenous to that part of North Carolina, and put in there. And instead, when they pull up the peach tree, there is a skeleton that is found, and they're trying to find out who this person was and why this person was there and how he ties to both of their grandparents. And it goes into this little murder mystery novel, and then it has some supernatural aspects to the book. And I like Sarah Addison Allen. I like Garden Spells and Sugar Queen are two of my favorite books. I reread those like at least once a year, and I really enjoy those books. And she wrote this book as well. This one was not my favorite. She puts romances in each one of her books, which is fine. Again, I love two of her books. They're some of my favorites, and they're just these nice little. It's like a little Hallmark movie romance. And this one, it felt weird. It felt weird. One of them felt super forced, and the other one just felt weird. It just felt weird. It just felt weird. That's all I'm gonna say about it. It felt weird. Felt weird for reasons, and I'm just like, really? That's how you're gonna. That's where you're going with this. Okay, whatevs. But it wasn't a bad book. Like, it was still kind of like that Hallmarky type of thing, but she tried to put a murder mystery into it, which was interesting. And I like how at the end it ties everything together, just like most of her books do. At the end, it ties them together. She brings in some of the characters from Garden Spells into this book, so we know it's all in the same universe, which is nice. I gave this a 3 out of 5. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. It was not going to be one of those books that I'm like, yes, I need to read this when I'm feeling like I need a Hallmark romance movie. You know, sometimes I have that vibe and I need to read something like that. This is not one of those. It's not. But 3 out of 5. And then the 5th book that we read this month is Don't Fear the Reaper. This is the 2nd book in the Indian Lake trilogy by Stephen Graham Jones. And I read this because I read My Heart is a Chainsaw, which I have physically, and I have this one physically as well. And I liked this one a lot better than the first one. The first one sets up Jade. Jade is a high school misfit who wants to have a horror movie happen in her town. And then it starts to happen. I'm not going to tell you what happened in that book because I don't want to spoil anything, but in the second book, she is back. And she is back with some of the survivors of what happened in the first book. So it's nice knowing who survived. Like, you get to find out who survived and what happened to them after this. This is like 5 years. I want to say like 4 or 5 years after the events of the first book. And there is a new big bad. And what I really enjoy about this book is it mixes the supernatural things that are happening around this lake with non-supernatural things that are just human things that happen, and how it gets all mixed up and you don't really know what's happening on this. You don't really know what's going on. Not until the end of the book when you're like, oh, I see. So that means that thing that happened at the beginning, that was this and not what I thought over here, or vice versa. And it's pretty great. Reading the second one was a lot better. It flowed a lot better. I think they're not focusing on what happened to Jade, her backstory, like they were at the second half of the first book. The second half of the first book, they were focusing so much on what happened to Jade in her lore, in her history, that I was rolling my eyes a lot. And I was like, I feel personally attacked by this and I don't like it. I don't like it. This one does not focus on that, so that's nice. And you get to, it's multiple POV, so you get to see how each of the different characters react to this, even if they're in small different ways. And this one lines up more with The Only Good Indians, like the writing of that, which I really like. I really like The Only Good Indians. So this one lines up a lot more with that, and I'm like, yes, I really enjoy this. And it kind of got me hyped up to read the third book. The third book came out earlier this year. Yeah, I'm thinking earlier this year, so I might pick it up and grab it. And I don't buy books very often, so that's exciting. Like, that's going to be the one I'd be like, hey, I want this one. But it really got me hyped up to read it. The ending of the first one, reading the first one through, I was like, I don't know if... it just feels weird. I don't like it. It feels weird. I don't like it. It's still a good book. Until it got towards the end, then I was just kind of rolling my eyes a little bit more. But picked it up at the end, and then we got to see the consequences of what happened. And I don't know how they're going to do the third one. I don't know how Stephen Graham Jones is going to wrap up the third one. I have no idea. But now I'm hyped about it, and now I want to read it. So I will pick that up sometime and read it, and that'll be great. But these are the 5 books that I read in June. What did you guys read? Did you guys have any really good reads? I had some really good reads, but I didn't have like a 5-star read this past month. Hopefully this month will be a little bit better. It's not really looking like it because I'm not reading as much this month because so much work. Y'all just need to go out to the store and pick up your own stuff sometimes. That's all I'm going to say. Like, you guys some of this is ridiculous and it's just stupid. But hopefully things will slow down and get better, and I'll be able to read a little bit more and go through. I'm going slowly, very, very slowly. I'm going through all of the books I own physically, and I'm going to be clearing out some of the books that I have read that I'm not vibing with. I don't think I'll read them again. So if you are looking to grab some of those books, if you're interested in some of them, you can check out my Discord, send me a message or anything. I'll have a list in my Discord of books that I have up for grab. If not, I'm going to see if I can sell them to like thrift books or something, just to get them out of my shelf space so I can make room for more books because I love reading. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget to do all of the YouTube things, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. I have links for the socials down below. I'll have links for where you can get these books physically from your local bookstore or through thrift books if you don't mind used books that are a little bit cheaper than brand new books, as well as if you are in the United States where you can find the books from your local, where you can find your local library so you can get these books through your library. Like I I got most of these from the library, so you guys can pick them up too and read them for free. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I really hope you guys have an amazing day, night, afternoon, whatever it is where you are. And I'll hopefully talk to you guys later. Bye.